The signal. The northern lights danced above the SETI Arctic Observatory as Dr. Natasha Petrov adjusted her headphones, fighting off exhaustion during another long night shift. The facility, buried partially underground to protect its sensitive equipment from the harsh Greenland environment, had been her home for the past 3 years. Like many before her, she had dedicated her life to listening for signs of intelligent life among the stars. The digital readouts flickered their usual patterns: cosmic background radiation, pulsars, and the endless symphony of natural space phenomena. Natasha reached for her thermos, the coffee inside long since gone cold, when the first anomaly appeared on her screen. At first, she assumed it was an equipment malfunction. The pattern was too regular, too structured to be natural. But as she ran diagnostic after diagnostic, the truth became undeniable. The signal continued, growing stronger with each passing minute. "Dr. Harrison, you need to see this," she called to her supervisor, her voice trembling slightly. The older scientist shuffled over from his workstation, his skepticism visible in the arch of his eyebrow. But as he studied the readings, his expression transformed from doubt to wonder. "It's modulated," he whispered. "Those are deliberate variations in the signal strength. This isn't random noise." Within hours, the observatory hummed with activity. Teams of cryptographers and linguists were flown in from universities worldwide. The signal, originating from a star system designated HD 40307, approximately 42 light-years from Earth, contained what appeared to be mathematical sequences, universal constants that any advanced civilization would recognize. Dr. Rajesh Patel, the team's leading cryptographer, made the first breakthrough after 36 sleepless hours. "It's not just mathematics," he announced to the crowded control room. "They're using the mathematical sequences as a primer for their language. The same way we would teach a child basic numbers before complex equations." The transmission contained more than just a language primer. As the team worked to decode its contents, they discovered detailed stellar maps, biological data, and increasingly urgent messages. The aliens, who called themselves the Meridians, were facing extinction. "They're under attack," Natasha explained to the hastily assembled UN Security Council via video conference. "An aggressive species they call the Swarm has been systematically destroying their outer colonies. Their home world will be next." The council chambers erupted in debate. Some argued for caution, fearing this could be an elaborate trap. Others insisted humanity had a moral obligation to help. But all agreed on one thing: this was the most important moment in human history. As the debates raged, Natasha continued studying the Meridian data. Their civilization was older than humanity's by millennia, but they had evolved along a different path. The Meridians had focused on biological and environmental technologies, learning to shape ecosystems and heal planets. They had never developed significant weapons technology, believing that aggressive species would eventually destroy themselves. The Swarm proved them wrong. The attacking species operated like their namesake, consuming resources from one system before moving to the next, leaving devastated worlds in their wake. The Meridians' peaceful technology was no match for the Swarm's destructive capability. Admiral James Rodriguez, newly appointed commander of Earth's first interstellar defense force, visited the Arctic facility to review the technical data himself. "These Swarm ships," he mused, studying the specifications the Meridians had provided, "they're powerful, but they're designed to fight enemies like the Meridians, large, predictable targets. They've never faced anything like human warships." "What do you mean?" Natasha asked, looking up from her terminal. "The Meridians build big. Their ships are like floating cities. The Swarm adapted to fight that kind of target. But human vessels?" He smiled grimly. "We've spent centuries fighting each other. We learned to build ships that are fast, agile, and can pack one hell of a punch for their size." The decision to intervene came after 2 weeks of global debate. It wasn't unanimous, but it was decisive. Humanity would not stand by and watch another civilization be extinguished, not when they had the power to help. As the first ships of the newly christened Earth Defense Fleet began their modifications for the long journey, Natasha received one final transmission from the Meridians. The message was simple but profound: "Thank you for hearing us. Thank you for coming. Whatever happens, know that you have given us something we had lost: hope." The night before the fleet's departure, Natasha stood outside the observatory, watching the aurora borealis paint the sky in sheets of green and purple. Somewhere out there, beyond those curtains of light, an ancient civilization waited for humanity's help. They had reached out across the vast darkness of space, and humanity had answered. Whatever came next would change the course of both their species forever. The fleet would depart at dawn. Humanity's first step into a larger galaxy would not be driven by conquest or exploration, but by the simple desire to help those in need. As Natasha turned to go back inside, a shooting star streaked across the Arctic sky, a reminder that sometimes the most important journeys begin with a single message in the dark. First Contact's price. The massive holographic display in United Earth Defense Command filled the war room with an eerie blue glow as Admiral Rodriguez studied the Meridian star charts. Each pulsing red dot represented another world fallen to the swarm. The pattern was clear, methodical, strategic, and relentless. Dr. Olivia Santos, the fleet's chief xenobiologist, pointed to a cluster of green marks near the center. These are the remaining Meridian worlds. Based on the swarm's previous attacks, they have less than 6 months before the invasion reaches their home system. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Earth Defense Fleet's fastest ships would take nearly 8 months to reach Meridian space, even with the experimental drive systems being installed. They would arrive too late unless something changed. "Tell me more about these Meridians," General Diana Walsh demanded, her weathered face illuminated by the holographic stars. "What makes them worth risking Earth's fleet?" Dr. Santos pulled up the biological data from the transmissions. The Meridians were a fascinating species, silicon-based life forms that had evolved in the high-pressure depths of their world's vast oceans. Their bodies naturally conducted electricity, allowing them to communicate through bioelectric fields. This same ability had led them to develop incredible biotechnology. Their greatest achievement, Santos explained, is their ability to heal entire ecosystems. They can reverse climate change, purify toxic environments, even bring dead worlds back to life. The swarm isn't just destroying a civilization, they're destroying the knowledge that could save countless planets. Lieutenant Rashid Karim, the fleet's tactical officer, studied the swarm battle footage the Meridians had transmitted. Their attack patterns are unlike anything we've seen. It's not just about destroying military targets. They systematically break down every aspect of a civilization's infrastructure before moving in for the kill. The swarm ships themselves were biological constructs, massive living weapons that consumed everything in their path to fuel their expansion. They showed signs of intelligence but had never attempted communication with any species they encountered. The Meridians weren't their first victims, just the latest in a long line of civilizations that had fallen before them. Dr. Natasha Petrov, joining virtually from the Arctic Observatory, shared her latest findings. The Meridians have been monitoring the swarm's communication patterns. They believe these aren't just random attacks. The swarm is building something, converting the resources and biomass of conquered worlds into some larger structure. A nest, Admiral Rodriguez concluded grimly. They're not just consuming. They're preparing to spawn. The implications were staggering. If the swarm successfully established a new nest, their numbers would multiply exponentially. The threat wouldn't just be to the Meridians, every civilization in this arm of the galaxy would be at risk, including Earth. The engineering team, led by Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, worked around the clock to adapt Meridian biotechnology to human ships. The aliens' mastery of biological systems offered unexpected advantages. Their living metal alloys could self-repair, their neural interfaces could process data faster than any computer, and their energy manipulation systems could potentially revolutionize human weapons technology. The Meridians never weaponized these technologies, Tanaka explained during a briefing. But we don't share their philosophical restrictions. We can use their defensive systems in ways they never imagined. The first breakthrough came when testing the integrated systems. The Meridian biointerfaces, designed to work with their natural electrical fields, initially rejected human operators. But Dr. Santos discovered that with slight modifications, human brainwaves could actually form stronger connections than the Meridians themselves. It's like their technology was waiting for us, she marveled. The neural pathways we use for abstract thinking and tactical planning are perfect for their systems. We can push these ships beyond anything their original designers thought possible. But time was running out. Each day brought new distress calls from the Meridian colonies. The swarm's advance continued unabated, their ships growing larger and more numerous with each world they consumed. The question wasn't just whether humanity could help, it was whether they could help in time. Admiral Rodriguez made his final presentation to the United Earth Council. We've learned everything we can from the transmissions. The Meridian technology we've adapted has given us capabilities we never dreamed of. But make no mistake, we're still going up against an enemy that has destroyed dozens of advanced civilizations. Many of our ships and crews won't make it back. The council chambers were silent for a long moment before President Catalina Reyes spoke. Throughout human history, we've faced moments that defined us as a species. Moments where we had to decide who we truly were. This is one of those moments. She stood, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. The Meridians reached out across 42 light-years of space, not knowing if anyone would hear them or care. They chose to believe that somewhere in this vast galaxy, there were others who would stand against the darkness. We will not prove them wrong. The vote was unanimous. The Earth Defense Fleet would launch within the week, carrying humanity's best technology and bravest souls toward an uncertain destiny among the stars. As the council adjourned, Dr. Petrov transmitted what everyone hoped wouldn't be their final message to the Meridians: hold on. We're coming. You are not alone. Operation Stardust. The sprawling shipyards of Orbital Station Unity hummed with unprecedented activity as the final preparations for Operation Stardust entered their crucial phase. 12 ships of the Earth Defense Fleet hung in geosynchronous orbit, their hulls gleaming with the distinctive iridescent sheen of Meridian biotechnology merged with human engineering. Commander Zara Patan stood at the viewport of the EDF Hyperion, watching teams of spacewalkers make final adjustments to the experimental hybrid drive systems. As the fleet's lead tactical commander, she had spent months running combat simulations against the swarm's predicted attack patterns. The traditional rules of space combat won't apply, she explained to her assembled crew. The swarm's biological ships don't think like we do. They don't care about self-preservation. Every tactical doctrine we've developed fighting other humans goes out the window. Below deck, Chief Engineer Marcus O'Reilly supervised the integration of the Meridian neural interfaces. The biotechnology allowed human pilots to connect directly with their ships, reducing reaction times to mere milliseconds. However, the psychological strain of the connection had proved challenging during testing. It's not just about controlling the ship, O'Reilly warned the volunteer pilots. You'll feel everything the ship feels. Every hit, every wound, every repair. The Meridians evolved to handle this kind of input. We're having to adapt on the fly. The solution came from an unexpected source. Dr. Amara Okafor, a specialist in meditation and neural plasticity, developed a training program combining ancient mindfulness techniques with modern neuroscience. The pilots learned to process the overwhelming sensory input from their ships while maintaining tactical awareness. Think of it like learning a new language, she told them during training sessions. At first, everything is overwhelming. But gradually, your brain adapts. The ship becomes an extension of your body, as natural as moving your own limbs. The fleet's weapons systems underwent equally dramatic transformations. Dr. Tanaka's team had made a breakthrough in combining Meridian biotech with human military technology. The result was a new class of adaptive weapons that could evolve during combat, learning from each engagement to become more effective against swarm defenses. The Meridians created this technology to heal planets, Tanaka said during the final systems check. We're the first to show it can also be used to defend them. In the fleet's medical bay, Dr. Santos worked with her team to understand the swarm's biology. The enemy's ships were essentially massive organisms, and like any living thing, they had vulnerabilities. The challenge was finding weak points in their incredibly resilient biological armor. They're not invincible, Santos insisted during a briefing. Their biological systems are complex but follow predictable patterns. If we can disrupt their neural networks, we might be able to turn their greatest strength into a weakness. The night before launch, Admiral Rodriguez called a final meeting of the fleet's senior staff. The holographic display showed the latest intelligence from Meridian space. 3 more colonies had fallen while Earth prepared its response. I won't lie to you, Rodriguez began, his voice grave. What we're attempting has never been done. No species has successfully driven back the swarm once they've begun their expansion phase. But no species has ever faced them with our unique combination of technologies and tactics. Lieutenant Karim presented the latest tactical analysis. The swarm fights like a coordinated organism because that's exactly what they are. But that coordination has a price, they're predictable. They follow optimal attack patterns without considering that their enemies might be willing to take unexpected risks. And if there's one thing humans excel at, Commander Patan added, it's doing the unexpected. The launch countdown began at dawn. Across Earth, millions watched as humanity's first interstellar battle fleet prepared to depart. The ship's hybrid drives hummed to life, creating ripples in spacetime that would carry them faster than light. Dr. Petrov's voice came through on the fleet's common channel from the Arctic Observatory. We're still receiving Meridian transmissions. They've begun evacuating their outer worlds, falling back to more defensible positions. But they're running out of places to retreat. President Reyes delivered a final message to the fleet. You carry with you not just the hopes of Earth, but of an entire civilization that reached out to us in their darkest hour. Show them that their faith in humanity was not misplaced. Commander Patan watched Earth recede from the Hyperion's viewport as the fleet aligned for its first faster-than-light jump. The neural interface hummed in her mind, connecting her to every system of her ship. Through it, she could feel the readiness of her crew, their determination mixing with her own. All ships report ready, Lieutenant Karim announced. Admiral Rodriguez's voice filled the command channel. The Meridians sent their message believing someone in this galaxy would care enough to help. In answering that call, we prove that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons, it's our unwillingness to stand by while others suffer. Fleet command to all ships, commence Operation Stardust. One by one, the ships of the Earth Defense Fleet vanished into the depths of space, leaving behind a planet united in purpose for the first time in its history. Whether they would succeed in their mission remained to be seen, but they had already achieved something remarkable. They had given both humanity and the Meridians a reason to hope. Beyond the void. 3 months into their journey, the Earth Defense Fleet encountered their first evidence of the swarm's devastation. The remains of a Meridian colony world hung in space like a broken jewel, its once vibrant biosphere reduced to ash and rubble. Through her neural interface, Commander Patan felt the Hyperion sensors mapping the destruction. The swarm hadn't simply conquered this world, they had consumed it, stripping away everything of value and leaving behind a dead husk. Multiple biomass extraction points detected, Lieutenant Karim reported, his voice tight. They weren't just destroying. They were feeding. Dr. Santos's analysis confirmed their worst fears. The swarm's biological ships had grown significantly larger since the initial Meridian reports. Each conquered world made them stronger, more adaptable. The race against time had become even more critical. Admiral Rodriguez ordered the fleet to maintain radio silence as they approached the front lines of the conflict. The swarm's ability to detect conventional communications was well documented, but the Meridian biotechnology allowed the human ships to communicate through quantum-entangled neural networks that were virtually undetectable. The first engagement came without warning. 3 swarm vessels, each larger than the largest ships humanity had ever built, emerged from the shadow of a gas giant. Their organic hulls rippled with patterns of bioluminescence, a display that the Meridians had learned preceded an attack. All ships, combat formation Delta, Rodriguez commanded through the neural net. Remember your training. They're bigger, but we're faster. Hit and fade, don't let them lock onto you. Commander Poton felt the Hyperion respond to her thoughts, executing maneuvers that would have been impossible with conventional controls. Around her, the other ships of the fleet moved in perfect coordination, their human crews and Meridian biotechnology working in harmony. The swarm attacked with terrible efficiency, launching waves of smaller biological projectiles that sought their targets like living missiles. But human pilots, enhanced by their neural interfaces, proved more agile than any prey the swarm had previously encountered. They're not used to targets that can outmaneuver them, O'Reilly observed from engineering. Their tracking systems are optimized for larger, slower vessels. The fleet's first volley of adaptive weapons struck home, their payloads evolving in real time to penetrate the swarm's biological defenses. The largest enemy vessel reeled, its bioluminescent patterns flickering in what appeared to be surprise or pain. But the swarm's response was immediate and devastating. The wounded ship's hull split open, releasing a swarm of smaller attack craft that moved with terrifying speed and coordination. 2 human vessels, the Dauntless and the Excalibur, took direct hits. Dauntless reporting heavy damage, came the strained voice of its captain. Meridian biorepairs engaging, but we need time. Dr. Okafor's voice cut through the chaos. Remember your training. Don't fight the neural feedback, use it to anticipate their movements. The ship's pain is information. Commander Poton understood. Through her connection to the Hyperion, she could feel the subtle disturbances in space caused by the swarm's movements. The enemy's biological nature made them powerful but also predictable, every action telegraphed by minute changes in their energy fields. All ships, switch to Protocol Omega, she ordered. Let the neural net guide your timing. The fleet's formation shifted, moving not like individual vessels but like a single organism. As each swarm attack came, the human ships were already moving to counter it, their responses aided by the hybrid technology's ability to process information faster than purely organic or mechanical systems. The battle raged for hours, a dance of biology and technology unlike anything in human military history. The swarm vessels, for the first time, found themselves unable to predict or counter their opponent's tactics. Human creativity, combined with Meridian biotechnology, proved a combination they had never evolved to face. Finally, the largest swarm ship began to retreat, its hull breached in multiple places by the fleet's adaptive weapons. The smaller vessels followed, their coordinated movements becoming erratic as the humans pressed their advantage. Don't pursue, Admiral Rodriguez ordered as several ships prepared to give chase. This was a scouting party. We've learned how they fight, but more importantly, they've learned that we're a threat. The real battle is still to come. As the fleet regrouped, Dr. Santos analyzed the combat data. Their ships are evolving faster than we predicted. The biological components we damaged are already showing signs of adaptation. Next time, our weapons will need to be even more creative. The victory had come at a cost. The Dauntless and Excalibur would require extensive repairs, and 3 crew members had died when the neural feedback from their damaged ships overwhelmed their minds. But they had proven that humanity could stand against the swarm and win. "Send word to the Meridians," Rodriguez commanded. "Tell them that the first engagement was successful, but they need to be ready. The swarm will adapt their tactics. The next battle will be harder." Through the neural interface, Commander Patan felt the determination of her crew mixing with her own. They had faced humanity's greatest challenge and proven equal to it. But as she watched the swarm ships disappear into the darkness of space, she knew this was only the beginning. The real test would come when they reached Meridian space and faced not just a scouting party, but the full might of the swarm's invasion force. The fate of two civilizations would hang in the balance, and humanity would need every ounce of its courage, creativity, and resilience to prevail. Legacy of Stars. The Meridian home system blazed with the light of battle. Hundreds of swarm vessels surrounded the inner planets, their massive organic forms casting shadows across the spaceways. Against this armada, the 12 ships of the Earth Defense Fleet seemed impossibly small. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the tactical display. The Meridian's last transmission had confirmed their worst fears: the swarm was building a nest in the system's outer reaches. If it became operational, it would spawn thousands of new ships within weeks. "Status of the Meridian evacuation?" he asked. Dr. Santos consulted her readings. "Their deepest underwater cities are still holding out. The swarm can't easily reach them through the planet's dense oceans. But the surface settlements." She didn't need to finish. The devastation was visible even from orbit. Through the neural interface, Commander Patan shared tactical data with the fleet. The swarm had indeed adapted since their first encounter, developing new biological weapons specifically designed to counter human tactics. But they hadn't counted on humanity's greatest advantage, the ability to adapt even faster. "They think in biological terms," Lieutenant Karim observed. "Evolution over generations. They don't understand that human creativity can make leaps in minutes." Dr. Tanaka's weapons team had worked throughout the journey, developing new countermeasures. The adaptive weapons now carried engineered viruses that could spread through the swarm's biological network, turning their greatest strength, their interconnected nature, into a vulnerability. "All ships, this is Admiral Rodriguez. You know what's at stake. Not just the Meridian civilization, but every species the swarm might target next. Including Earth. We stop them here, or we don't stop them at all." The battle began with a gambit no biological entity would have considered. The Earth fleet deliberately scattered, each ship broadcasting different energy signatures to confuse the swarm's organic sensors. Through their neural interfaces, the human crews felt their ship systems straining as they pushed the hybrid technology beyond its designed limits. Commander Patan led the Hyperion straight toward the heart of the swarm fleet. "Launch viral payload on my mark," she ordered. The ship's weapon systems hummed with potential energy as they closed the distance. The swarm responded predictably, their larger ships moving to engulf the seemingly isolated human vessel. What they didn't understand was that every human ship was acting as a carrier for Dr. Santos's engineered virus. "Now!" Patan commanded. The viral weapons deployed simultaneously across the battlefield, each warhead containing a slightly different strain. The swarm's biological ships tried to adapt, but they couldn't evolve defenses fast enough against the multiple variants. "It's working, Dr. Santos reported, monitoring the spread through the enemy fleet. "Their neural networks are starting to break down. They're losing coordination." But the swarm had one final surprise. As their ships began to fail, they launched themselves toward the Meridian homeworld in a suicide run. Their dying bodies would become biological weapons, contaminating the planet's biosphere. "They're going to poison the entire world," O'Reilly shouted. "The Meridians will die even if we win." That's when humanity proved again why they had been worth calling for help. Without orders, without hesitation, the Earth ships moved to intercept the falling swarm vessels. The Hyperion's neural interface blazed with shared purpose as Commander Patan linked with other captains, coordinating their defense of a world not their own. "Redirect power to the Meridian bioshields," she commanded. "We'll use their own technology to contain the contamination." The human fleet formed a barrier between the falling swarm ships and the planet below. Through their neural links, crews felt the impact of each collision, every ship straining to maintain position. The Dauntless was the first to fall, its crew evacuating seconds before its hull breached. The Excalibur followed, then the Valiant. But they held. As the last swarm ship burned up in the Meridian atmosphere, contained by human determination and hybrid technology, a new sound filled the neural network, the song of the Meridians themselves, their bioelectric communications carrying gratitude and wonder. In the aftermath, as rescue operations began and the fleet assessed its losses, the true magnitude of what humanity had accomplished became clear. They hadn't just saved a civilization, they had changed the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. The Meridians emerged from their ocean depths to find their surface world scarred but salvageable. Their bioengineering skills, combined with human innovation, would heal their planet faster than either species could have managed alone. "You came," the Meridian High Speaker transmitted to the fleet. "Across 42 light-years of space, knowing nothing about us except that we needed help. Our scientists said it was impossible for a species as young as yours to reach us in time. They said your technology was too primitive, your ships too few. But they didn't understand." Admiral Rodriguez smiled as he composed humanity's response. What did they not understand? That the strength of a species cannot be measured by the age of their civilization or the power of their weapons. It must be measured by the size of their hearts and the reach of their courage. The Earth Defense Fleet's victory over the swarm became a turning point in galactic history. Other species, long isolated by fear and distance, began reaching out. The Meridians shared their biological technology freely, while humanity taught others about innovation, adaptation, and the importance of standing together against common threats. Years later, when the first Meridian ambassadors arrived on Earth, they brought with them a gift, a crystal containing a recording of that first distress signal and humanity's response. It was installed in the new Galactic Council headquarters with a simple inscription. "To the species who taught us that the greatest evolution is not in our bodies or our technology, but in our capacity to care for those we have never met. May we never forget that in our darkest hour, Earth did not hesitate to light the way." The swarm threat had been ended not just by weapons or tactics, but by something they could never have evolved to counter, the human spirit's unwavering determination to help others in need. It was a lesson the galaxy would remember for generations to come.